So we just finished 2 days on the Holland Track. We drove from Perth to Hyden and then camped at the start of the Holland Track at the southern section, at a place called Flat Rock. Nice little campsite, plenty of room, and definitely worth a visit. The track is really a tale of two halves. There's the southern portion, which is where we started. About 120 kilometres of slippery mud that seems to never end. Just keeps on going on and on.
Okay, around here I just drag my ass through that.
Yeah, I might just try and stay high if I can.
There were, however, good sections of track in between the gnarly, shitty, muddy bits, but you do have to exercise caution. The track is pretty narrow, and it is winding, and it is possible for sort of other vehicles to be coming in the other direction, and yeah, you could have a head-on collision with them if you go silly. Top speed through there was probably 30 kilometres an hour, which is still pretty slow going, and that was on a reasonable track. But after every good section of track, it wasn't long before you were back in the mud again.
Keep the revs up through there.
I'm just watching you bouncing around. I thought I'd just hold off in case something happens.
We did get bogged a couple of times, and we ended up having to use all the recovery gear we had.
Is that deeper through there, is it? Yeah, so there's a spot I wanted to be here, but I slid off the edge. Yeah. Yeah, right.
There's a lot of comments on social media about the condition of the track and the opportunity to take chicken tracks around some of the deeper holes, which is true. That certainly, I think, makes it accessible. However, sometimes the second option is not really that good either. So you do have to exercise caution. Several times we stopped for maybe 5 or 10 minutes or something like that to try and find the best route through. And even then we just ended up gunning it through. But it was still better than some of the holes, which was the worst option, which were generally the depth of the vehicle. That 120 kilometre section took us about 9.5 hours that day. When we finally reached Centenary Rocks, we decided to call it a day, and that was just before sunset. Day 2 was very different. The northern half of the track was about 80 kilometres of bumpy, narrow track. Not too bad, not as much mud as the day before. You could cruise along at about 50-60 kilometres an hour, but then intermittently there were these mud holes and erosion that, yeah, you really do need to slow down and navigate carefully. There were still some pretty gnarly sections, but not as bad as the previous day, and yeah, and nowhere near as frequent either. All in all, it was definitely the four-wheel drive adventure that we were looking for. It was pretty hard. Probably won't be rushing back to do it again, but glad that we did it. And I absolutely understand what people are talking about when they say go when there's no mud or a little bit of mud. Apparently what we had was a little bit of mud, and yeah, it was still pretty tough. But that's what we went there for.
The other end.
After finishing the Holland Track, we made our way through Norseman, where we restocked on a few things, refueled, and headed up to the Helena and Aurora Ranges up in the Yilgarn, which is where we are now. We're going to camp here for a few days and enjoy everything that this area has to offer.